Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. There is nothing worse than political infighting when it comes to creating new bills and acts, laws, right? Putting all that stuff together, trying to get it over the finish line for veterans and having it stall because of political indifference. And here we are. The headline sums it up. Path forward on sweeping veterans bill uncertain amid political infighting. This just came out a few days ago, and I wanted to share it with you today if you've missed it, and go from there. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it, and we'll jump into it. Found this on military.com, and here we go. A wide-ranging veterans policy bill that seeks to bolster home caregiver programs, provide more support for homeless veterans, and fix the electronic health records program appears to be falling victim to election year politics. Veteran service organizations are warning. So the call to action at this point is if this ends up being something that you believe in, you should reach out to your congressional member and let them know that this is a must do. All right. So veterans groups and congressional staff were hopeful that the legislation would pass early this summer after the Republicans on the House Veterans Affairs Committee and Democrats and Republicans on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee announced an agreement on the bill last month. So there they were. But opposition from House Democrats and some Republicans has raised doubts about the future of the bill. Veterans groups say the optimism is being fueled, or the opposition is being fueled by misinformation about what the legislation would do and how, and that the partisan bickering is leaving veterans and their families caught in the middle, waiting for desperately needed improvements. And isn't that the truth? Look, if you want to know what it's going to do and what it's about, read the damn thing. They don't. Right? They have a staffer read it, then the staffer gives them a few notes, and then then they tell somebody else, and then somebody else tells somebody else, and then it's a game of telephone, and the whole thing's all jumbled up by the time you get to the end. Sad situation. So this is something that we need now, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, said Laura Gary, a fellow with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, who was a caregiver for her husband before he died from ALS. 2 years ago. Caregivers are pushing their mental and physical health to a breaking point because we want to sit around and play politics with legislation that's needed now. Pass it. Pass it now. One of the key provisions of the bill, formerly called the Elizabeth Dole 21st Century Veterans Healthcare and Benefits Improvement Act, would increase the Department of Veterans Affairs' share of covering home nursing care from 65% to 100% of costs, as well as ensure that aging and disabled veterans can get home and community-based nursing care services through any VA medical center in the country. The change has been a major priority for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, which supports caregivers for veterans and service members. One major provisions include ones that would set metrics that the VA's troubled Oracle electronic health records program has not met if it fails to meet those marks in the program altogether. The bill would also revive through 2026 authorities the VA had during the COVID-19 pandemic that were credited with helping reduce the number of unhoused veterans, including allowing the VA to provide homeless veterans with transportation for medical appointments and increasing their per diem rate the VA can pay to organizations providing short-term transitional housing from 115% of the cost to 133% of the cost. Those provisions have broad support, but two other sections of the bill are garnering controversy. One section seeks to ease veterans' ability to get VA-funded health care from non-VA doctors by banning the department from overriding a VA's doctor's referral for their patient to get outside care. The other section at issue would establish new access standards for veterans to be able to get treatment at residential mental health and substance abuse programs and allow veterans to go to non-VA programs if they wait for a VA program, if the wait for a VA program is too long. What's the issue with that? House Democrats are arguing those provisions amount to backdoor privatization efforts. House Republicans have hijacked a historically bipartisan process for veterans packages, but to push their main priority of privatizing VA health care. Mark Takano from California said, the ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. He said that in a statement last month announcing his opposition to the bill. Major labor unions, including the American Federation of Government Employees and AFL-CIO, are also lobbying lawmakers against the bill on arguments that it unacceptably expands VA privatization. So on one hand, you have veterans who are saying, I want to get my care over here. The care where I'm forced to go sucks or takes too long or I'm treated like garbage. I want to go get it over here. So you have a group of people saying, no, you don't get a choice. You have to go to where you don't like. You get zero say. And then you have the other group that say, go where you want. Go wherever you want, and that's okay. But keep in mind that if we don't use it, we will lose it. So there's kind of both sides. There's good and bad both ways, right? So it's just something to be cognizant about. The legislation includes new benefits and improved processes at VA to better serve veterans, which we support, but contains other provisions that immediately undermine those new benefits and improved processes while harming the VA workforce. The unions wrote in a letter to Congress last month that was obtained by military.com. Without action to remove privatization measures, we are opposed to passage of this legislation. So, of course, everybody's about self-preservation, right? So the VA, from the VA's perspective, and all the unions that encompass the VA are obviously going to say no, because if the demand shrinks a little bit at VA, then VA will also constrict. Is it going to constrict all the way? No, I don't think so. But, you know, who knows? I guess it's the fear. And who pays in this situation of fear? Us as veterans, by eliminating any sort of choice. You get zero choice. You either go to the VA or not. So then what happens? The veteran neglects their conditions and they get worse. So let's move on. Veterans organizations maintain that while the direction of the community care program and concerns about VA privatization are worthy of debate, Democrats are overstating the bill's scope and that this legislation is not the place to have that broader fight. None of us would be at the table advocating as strongly as we are if this bill was a vast effort to privatize care. Elizabeth Dole Foundation CEO Steve Schwab said of his and other organizations, I think that what's happening here is folks have gotten into the corners of extreme opinions on headlines that actually aren't accurate. And do I think the politics of an election year matter? I think it matters on everything that's happening in Washington right now. But it used to be the case that those things didn't impact veterans and veteran family members. A coalition of veterans groups, including the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Wounded Warrior Project, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and others, is planning a news conference Tuesday afternoon to push for passage of the bill. More than a dozen groups also sent a letter to congressional leadership last month urging them to put aside politics. On the other side of the political spectrum, some conservative groups, such as Concerned Veterans of America, are urging Republicans to oppose the bill because they believe the section on residential treatment programs and the legislation as a whole do not go far enough to expand access to non-VA care. The Dole Act, as currently drafted, is a non-starter for anyone concerned about caring for our nation's veterans. Executive Director of Concerned Veterans of America, or for America, and Brett Gardner, Chief Government Affairs Officer at the Americans for Prosperity, said in a joint statement to military.com. Despite the VA's best attempts to steer veterans into wait lines, community care's popularity continues to grow. No elected leader who claims to care about veterans can support a bill that guts community care with a clear conscience. Asked about the status of the bill and the prospect of getting a vote, House Veterans Affairs Committee staffer told military.com that Committee Chairman Mike Bost is working with leadership to bring it to the floor as soon as possible, and that Democrats' opposition is the biggest factor in the delay. We are working through that, and hopefully that House Democrats will join us in being on the right side of history and agreeing with the 40-plus veterans groups and stakeholders that are supportive of this good package when it comes to a floor vote, the staffer said. The bill has been pulled from the House schedule several times in recent weeks. A source familiar with negotiations who requested an enemy, I can't even say it, not to be mentioned. I want to say like see an enemy, but it's definitely not that. And whatever. You know what I mean. To speak candidly, told military.com. We'll just say anonymous. The holdup on the bill is also in part because of procedural issues. House leadership was planning to use a fast-track process known as suspension in order to pass the bill, the source said, but that procedure requires 2/3 approval from or for the bill to pass, a benchmark that can't be reached if Democrats oppose the bill. While using the regular process would require only a simple majority vote to pass the bill, it would also require a procedural vote that far-right Republicans have been using to block bills when the party leadership does not accede to their demands on amendment votes or other issues. With the House seemingly deadlocked, some discussion has started on having the Senate vote on the bill first, the source said. But politics could be an issue. There too, since Senate Veterans Affairs Committee John Tester is in a tough re-election battle, and Republicans have a history of blocking bills in order to deny him legislative victories he can campaign on. I am entirely an optimist, and so I haven't given up hope that we can get this bill across the finish line. And we could do it in the next month, the Dole Foundation's Schwab said. We're meeting with offices virtually every day to tell them our side and to tell them the facts. And my hope is that the pure facts and the pure case for the supporting this bill, which are on the right side, will win the day and that will get it done. And if we don't, I will deeply be disappointed that the politics have been so extreme in D.C. and that it's has gotten to this point. So, in any case, that concludes it. I'm hot and tired. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.